Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Info Day of Horizon Europe Cluster 4. We are pleased to have you here with us, and we are now going to start the session on cross-cutting topics. We have 6 speakers with us who will be very pleased to present various topics in the field of in this cross-cutting domain that is relevant to all proposals. Our first speaker is Nicole Scurti, and she will talk about international cooperation. Nicole, the floor is yours.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Scurti, and I'm a policy officer in the European Commission's Directorate General for Research and Innovation, and more specifically Directorate F, which is responsible for the global approach and international cooperation. If we go on to the next slide, I'm going to start by telling you a bit about the global approach to research and innovation, which is the strategy that underpins international cooperation in research. The Commission adopted its communication on the global approach to research and innovation, Europe's strategy for international cooperation in a changing world, on the 18th of May 2021. The global approach contributes to the priority of a stronger Europe in the world and to President von der Leyen's objective to lead a geopolitical commission committed to sustainable policies. Now, as you can see on the slide, the aim of the global approach is twofold. First, to preserve openness while promoting a level playing field and reciprocity underpinned by fundamental values, and to strengthen multilateral partnerships in order to deliver new solutions to global challenges. There are 3 main ways in which this is achieved, and that's through bilateral cooperation, the acceleration of sustainable and inclusive development, and using a so-called Team Europe approach. Now, all this is underpinned by guiding principles, and if we move on to the next slide, you'll see that first of all, openness is crucial to accelerate scientific progress, pool resources, and nurture vibrant innovation ecosystems. Under values and principles, researchers and innovators should be free to operate within a supportive environment based on values and principles such as academic freedom, research ethics, and the respect for human rights. Science diplomacy can also be an instrument of soft power. As far as the pursuit of a level playing field and reciprocity are concerned, well, there is a need for a balanced approach to better safeguard the EU's interests and values and boost its resilience while maintaining wide openness to cooperation. There is also a need for an assertive promotion of fair innovation ecosystems, open standard setting, non-discriminatory state subsidies, and the protection and enforcement of intellectual property rights. Finally, global cooperation is necessary to tackle global challenges such as pandemics, the climate crisis, and the biodiversity crisis effectively. The EU wants to bring countries together in multilateral research and innovation partnerships focused on finding solutions to green, digital, health, social, and innovation challenges. The next slides are going to explain some key elements relating to international cooperation in the Horizon Europe work program itself. In line with the global approach, Horizon Europe is as open as possible to the world, but an important distinction needs to be made between access to the program and access to EU funding, and I will go into that in a little bit. In addition to the default mode of openness, the Commission has also identified some more targeted international cooperation actions, where we want to make the international cooperation dimension stronger, more explicit, more forceful, if you like. Of course, while promoting international cooperation in Horizon Europe, we must also be careful that this cooperation doesn't go against the interests of the EU. This is why a number of mechanisms have been put in place to safeguard EU interests. So I'm going to go into all this in a little more detail. In the next slide, going back to openness, Thank you. So Horizon Europe is the most internationally open research program in the world. Horizon Europe is also a non-discriminatory program whereby researchers and innovators from all nationalities can in principle participate. Now, in case you haven't realized in your work or following these presentations already, the EU is very proud of the Horizon Europe program in general, but also very proud of this program for its openness to the world, which allows the most excellent scientists to collaborate regardless of their origin. Now, there is a rule in relation to this. In the case of collaborative research projects under Pillar 2, which of course includes Cluster 4, there is a condition that the consortium must include a minimum of 3 participants from different EU member states or associated countries and at least 1 EU member state. International partners must come in addition to this minimum. However, this really is a minimum because consortia usually tend to have many more participants, around 10 or 11 or 12. But it is extremely important that all of you in Europe are aware of the possibilities of international cooperation under Horizon Europe, because this rule does mean that in the end, you will be the ones bringing the international partners into the consortia. Now, one of the innovative points of Horizon Europe, as opposed to predecessor programs like Horizon 2020, is that Horizon Europe extends its openness to third countries anywhere in the world, as long as they meet a number of criteria, and offers them the possibility to become a so-called associated country. And on the slide is the current status in relation to association. And I should note, of course, that the UK will be fully associated as of the 1st of January 2024. Now, moving on to the next slide and to the very important issue of funding. As you can see, access to funding is automatic for most low and middle income countries, as well as the associated countries that we just had a look at. Unless, of course, there are limitations or conditions which are laid down in the work program and or the topic text. But these relate to a very small number of cases, and I will go through them in a minute. Other non-associated, mostly high-income countries do not have automatic access to EU funding and need to bear their own costs for participation. There are exceptions. These are decided on a case-by-case basis. For example, if their participation is crucial for the project, or when it's specifically mentioned in the topic, This is not overly common, but it definitely does exist. Now, some countries have put in place co-funding arrangements by a national funding body in order to provide financial support to their entities that participate or wish to participate in Horizon Europe projects. Each country is free to decide on the budget, the modalities, and the conditions of such a co-funding mechanism. And on the Funding and Tenders portal, you can find a guide with a section for each country that has such co-funding mechanisms in place. Now, if we move on to the next slide, there is a flagging of call topics specifically relevant for international cooperation. And I encourage those of you interested to go to the Funding and Tenders portal and filter for international cooperation. You can also filter for Africa or the Mediterranean, because as you can see in the next slide, there is targeted cooperation with Africa. Wait a minute for the slide to change. Under the Horizon Europe Africa initiative, and with the Mediterranean under the new Mediterranean initiative. Now, if we go ahead to the next slide, cooperation with China is currently in line with the ongoing discussions on the joint roadmap, with the aim of taking a more nuanced and transactional approach. If we move ahead to the next slide, we will see that the openness of the work program to international cooperation is balanced with the need to safeguard EU interest in strategic areas, and in particular to promote the EU's open strategic autonomy, its technological leadership, and its competitiveness. in a very small number of cases, for actions related to Union strategic assets, interests, autonomy, or security, actions can be limited to cooperation between legal entities established in member states only, member states and certain associated countries, and or certain third countries. These are the so-called eligible countries. These actions are based on Article 22.5 of the Horizon Europe regulations. And you can also see that on the slide, the rather technical second part of Article 22.5, which I will not go into. Now, 31 topics use Article 22.5 in Work Programme 23-24, which is actually a reduction from the 49 topics that used it in the previous work programme. These 31 topics represent a budget of 475.5 million, and that's only 3.5% of the overall budget of the main work programme. Of these 31 topics, 2 are under Cluster 3, while the rest, 29 in fact, are in Cluster 4 and fall into key areas, and more specifically raw materials, quantum, and space topics. If we go on to the next slide, please. There are additional articles which are used to safeguard EU interests. For example, Article 22.6 is currently applied to limit Chinese participation in innovation actions due to the lack of progress with the roadmap's framework conditions linked to innovation. On the next slide, we will also see that there are sanctions against Russia and Belarus, also in the field of research and innovation. There is a general prohibition provision in the general annexes to the 23-24 work programme, with exceptions on a case-by-case basis, and also an exemption for individual fellowships under the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions Programme. So moving on. Thank you. All these cases of restrictions that I just described, these are very limited overall. So I really wanted to end on a note of openness, to remind you that the vast majority of the topics in the 23-24 work programme are open to the world, and to show you some figures on the topics where international cooperation is encouraged. So you will see in this slide that in Cluster 4, 22 of the 130 topics, so 17%, specifically encourage international cooperation. And overall, out of the 642 topics in total, 141, so 22%, encourage international cooperation. And if we move to the final slide, I just want to say that I do encourage all of you who are interested to go ahead and to look for further information under these links. I hope that you found this presentation useful. And all that remains for me is to thank you for your interest in international cooperation in research and innovation, and to wish you much success in your research or your related work.
Many thanks, Nicole. You used open a lot, that international cooperation. So are you open for a few questions? Let's see if we get them in on Slido. I will read them out for you, so you have a minute to think or a second to think, depending on when they show. Let's see if they're coming in. For the moment, we have nothing yet, but let's wait another minute.
Sure.
Anyways, you did a great speech. Thank you very much. It was very, very good pace, very pleasant to listen to it.
Thank you very much.
So you see, you were too clear almost.
Fantastic.
No question came in, so you know you can lean back and listen to the other speakers now. So with that, I invite two colleagues of mine to take the floor. We have Elin Sijimov and Evelina Socheva from REA, who will talk about Central Validation Service and research, the Research Inquiry Service. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthias. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, with my colleague Evelina, we will present you the Central Validation Service and the process of registration for your PIC numbers and the financial capacity assessment. And we will also introduce to you the research inquiry service. On the first slide that you will see next, it's the today's outline of the presentation. It will be separated in 5 parts. We will explain to you who we are and what we do at the Central Validation Service. What is the process of registration for a participant identification code, the financial capacity assessment process, how to communicate with the Central Validation Service, the primary channel of communication. And on the final slide, you will see also the main guidance documents that will answer your question if you have any link to the validation process. But first, let's explain to you what we do. We firstly verify the legal existence and the legal status of the entities of your organization, which means we need to know that you're to verify that your entity is currently existing and under what legal form. For example, a private entity, a public, etc. We are also responsible for the validation of the appointment of the legal entity appointed representatives, the so-called LEARs. We also validate any legal changes that might occur for an already valid entity. And once you submit it, we again perform the check on the basis of the documents additionally submitted, and we verify these changes. We are also responsible for the assessment of universal takeovers of validated entities, the creation of legal entities and bank account files when this is necessary, the preparation of the financial capacity assessment for which my colleague Evelina will speak to you and will explain a bit more in details. Performing the ownership control analysis for which is actually for specific programs only. On the next slide, you can see a short timeline which shows the validation process overview. And we will start with the first arrow, which is the registration. And organizations have to register in the participant register and obtain their own PIC number. On the next slide, you see a screenshot from the participant register. Here there are 2 possible scenarios. The first one is to search for a PIC number. Your organization might already be registered in our in the portal, and you can search for it by indicating the legal name, other legal data, search registration number, and if you manage to identify that your organization already has a PIC, you might directly use this PIC, whether it is still not valid or already valid. But if you cannot identify a PIC number that belongs to your organization, you need to register a new one in order to submit your proposal. And now on the next slide, you will see how it looks, the process of creation of new PIC, registering for a new PIC number. It happens with a user-friendly step-by-step wizard that you need to follow. It starts with performing automatic identification according to the data indicated in the fields, whether the system checks whether your entity has already a PIC number, and if it doesn't, you continue with encoding your organization data such as name, country, VAT number, etc. The legal information, for example, what type of legal entity you are, a private company or association, then whether you are for-profit, non-for-profit. Then you need to indicate authorized users. These are persons that are, apart from the self-registrant, will have the right to manage your PIC number. And in the end, once the registration is completed, you will obtain a new participant identification code, or PIC, which is in declared status. So this status declared, it's the one that you need to submit your proposal. The validated status will be necessary only for once you need to sign your grant agreement. On the next slide, we will go for, we will dive into the actual validation, which is the verification and validation of the legal data. As already mentioned, it's based upon the legal documents that we are going to request from you once the validation is triggered. So once the operational service, the colleagues from Hadea request from us that we validate your PIC number, we are going to send you a message with which we request from you specific documents that you need to upload in the participant register. On the next slide, I would like to tell you a little bit more about the actual validation. So we need to verify that the data that you encoded before the signature of the grant agreement, that this data is indeed correct according to the legal documents that you have submitted. It is the advantage of the validation process under the single electronic data interchange area is that it is done only once, and it is necessary only for the first signature of a grant agreement or a contract. Once an entity is validated and it would like to participate in different calls in the future, they might use the same PIC number, and we reuse the data. So this simplified the process. On the next slide, I would like to highlight that the validation process is harmonized for all the participants, and which means that it's the same for everyone. It happens on the basis of the supporting documents that you upload, and it is in accordance to the EU financial regulation and the rules on legal entity validation, LEAR appointment, and financial capacity assessment. It is required for all the beneficiaries and affiliated entities. And the PIC of the affiliated entities frequently included in the consortium during the grant agreement preparation must be introduced in the funding and tenders portal's grant management service system. Please, we can go to the next slide, which actually enlists the legal documents that we are going to request from you in order to validate your organization. They depend according to the type of the legal entity. So the first document is the legal entity form, which is a template automatically generated by the system, which you simply need to download, complete it, put a date and sign it, and re-upload it in the system. We also require the VAT extract not older than 6 months. And if your entity is not registered for VAT, we would need a proof of VAT exemption. For private law bodies, we would request the registration extract, again, not older than 6 months, so we can verify that the entity is currently existing and under what legal form. For public law bodies, the requested documents would include the law, decree, or decision under which this public law body functions and with which it was created. For the international organization, this is the treaty that it was created with. And for non-for-profit organization, usually the non-for-profit status is indicated in the statutes. Therefore, we request this document. When a bank account file needs to be created, we also require a financial identification form. And now, from the next slide, You will see that we get to the last arrow in this validation process overview line, which is the financial capacity assessment, which is requested only if it's needed for the operational colleagues. And my colleague Evelina will introduce you to this financial capacity assessment process.
Thank you, Elin. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Evelina Tsocheva, and I'm working for the Central Validation Service. And Elin was quite detailed in his explanations on the legal validation part. So I'm going to very briefly walk you through the financial capacity assessment process. As every process, it has certain rules, and we have a legal basis to perform such checks. The legal basis and the requirement for a financial capacity assessment is stemming from the financial regulation, namely Articles 196 and 198, which require participants to have sufficient financial capacity and sources to implement their action for the project they're applying to. Another part detailing the requirements and in which cases financial capacity is required are the co-programs. So in your case, this is the Horizon Europe Work Program for 23 and 24, which is detailing really in which cases and from which participants such financial capacity assessment is needed, because as Elin mentioned, it's not required for all participants. We will see this a bit down in the slide. And the third, we're still here. And the third legal document detailing the rules and explaining the way the financial capacity assessment will be conducted and the requirements, including the timeline and the documents in very much details, is the rules of legal entity validation, LEAR appointment, and financial capacity assessment. My colleague Elin mentioned already about this document, and it will be available as a link at the end of this presentation. Going back to the particularities of the FCA in the context of Horizon Europe calls, the FCA, again, is not done for everyone. It is done only if the total requested grant amount per project is equal to or greater than 500,000 euros and is performed only for the coordinators in a consortium. Okay, financial capacity assessment is not required for entities that are validated as public bodies because they're exempt from such assessments. If the financial capacity assessment is needed for your PIC, in case you're a coordinator, we are going to contact you directly through the modalities of the participant register and the messaging functionalities of your PIC account. You are going to receive a request that will list all needed supporting documents. They're, of course, very well known for the majority of the cases. These are the annual accounts of the company, including the balance sheet statement, profit and loss account, the explanatory notes and annexes to these annual accounts. Of course, in case of newly established entities that do not have yet finalized and approved accounts, we are going to request a business plan which will present the financial forecast for their first year. The financial documents are required for the two most recent closed approved accounting years, and the validity for the FCA is 18 months. And now I pass the floor to my colleague Elin that will walk you through the communication with us through the funding and tender portal.
Yes, hello again. Here, when I showed you the timeline of the process, you saw that at the bottom there is the part on communication, and we always try to encourage you when you need to communicate regarding the validation of your entity, the LEAR appointment, the financial capacity assessment, always to do that, as Evelina said, via the messaging functionality of the participant register. This is very important because the message reaches the actual case handler, the person who works on your file, and you can explain to them if you face any challenges, or they can tell you what still it's needed or missing. The communication you receive a notification to your email with our message, but to reply to this message again, you need to log in into the participant register and use the messaging functionality there. We can go now on the next slide. Which I would like to explain to you two scenarios in case of a lost access to your PIC number. In the first scenario, we have you might have a PIC that it's not valid yet, and for some reason the self-registrant, the person who registered this PIC number, might have left the organization, and nobody within the organization has access to this non-valid PIC anymore. In this case, you need to create a new one and communicate this new PIC to us. So we can link both PIC numbers, and you will have only one single PIC to which you have access. In the second scenario, we are talking about a lost access, but to a valid PIC. So your entity has already been through the validation process and a leader has been appointed, but for some reason, this leader might not be available anymore. And no account administrators have been appointed. Therefore, in this case, you need to follow the so-called lear recovery procedure. This is again a simplified step-by-step wizard, which you need to fill in, upload documents, and it ends up with the appointment of a new lear for your entity. On the next slide, yes. On the next slide, we have compiled for you a set of guidance documents that are the most important ones. And if you have any questions, you might most probably find the answer in these guidelines. We can now go further. And so in the last part of our presentation, I would like to highlight that for any questions about the research and Horizon Europe, which are not linked to the validation process, you can contact the research inquiry service via the hyperlink that it's included in this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you to both of you, Alan and Evelina. Maybe we go to the next slide, and let's see if we have any questions for you. Dear audience, please use Slido and only Slido for your questions, so that that we can keep track of the questions. So please, if you have any questions, join us in Slido. The QR code and the link are both mentioned here on the slide. So please submit them only via Slido. So nothing yet, but we can still wait a minute. If you still need to log in, please do so via Slido. Okay, seems that it was very clear. So thank you very much to both of you again. And then let's move on to the next speaker. We have Anna Zoccalelli, who will talk about the application process. Anna?
Hello, everyone.
Yes, I can hear you. Camera isn't on yet.
It's, I guess, coming.
Yes, perfect. It's coming.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, from my side. My name is Anna Zoccalelli, and I'm a call coordinator in HADEA for Cluster 4 and also program coordinator for Cluster 4 also in HADEA. In this session, we will go through the application process in e-grants, and we will start with, in the next slide, with all the call deadlines that we are having in 2024 for all the destination under the work program that you see at the moment in the funding and tenders portal. We are having a single-stage application process, as you can see, most of the destinations, but also two-stage application process for destination 1 and destination 2. The second stage application process, the two-stage application process, the first stage will be evaluated under a blind evaluation. What is important at this point is that to always check for any call updates in the funding and tenders portal, because this is our way of communicating important messages when it comes to the call deadlines or any other important information for the topic you will apply for. In the next slide, we are seeing here the funding and tenders portal and the process that you will undergo for submitting your application. But before you start, you are invited to read the call documentation on the call page of the funding and tenders portal, of course, very carefully, and particularly the Horizon Europe general annexes, the Horizon Europe program guide, the online manual, of course, and if you have a bit more time, of course, the annotated grant agreement. All these documents provide very useful information and clarifications and answers to questions you may have during your during the preparation of your application. Now, if a topic deviates from the general conditions or includes any other additional conditions, this will be explicitly stated under the specific conditions for the topic in the work program, and you will be able also to find these conditions in the funding and tender portal before you start your application. Next page. Thank you. Here you see where you can find additional information. The online manual, you will find it under the support tab. Here you will also see the frequently asked questions and support videos that they have been developed by the central services that will also provide information for you in important matters of your application. Next page, slide. Thank you. This is what you see when you will start the submission of your proposal. All applications, of course, must be submitted before the call deadline and electronically. And you must use the forms that are provided inside the electronic submission system and not the templates that are available on the topic page in the fundings and tenders portal, which are only for information. This is because these templates here are customized to the specific topic you are applying for. Now, when you download these documents, you must follow, especially for the part B, the structure and presentation must correspond to the template, to the instructions given in the template for every criterion, excellence, impact, and implementation. Of course, applications must be complete and contain all parts and mandatory annexes. And all supporting documents, if any. You are welcome also to follow the topic-related frequently asked questions that we regularly update. As you know, this is a general corporate approach. All applications must include a plan for the exploitation and dissemination of results, including communication activities, unless, of course, provided otherwise in the specific call topic or call conditions. Of course, this plan is not required for applications at the first stage of a two-stage submission procedure. Now, if the plan provides for exploitation of the results primarily in non-associated third countries, you must explain how that exploitation is still to be considered in the EU's interests. And of course, for those that are applying, submitting a proposal under a blind evaluation, you must not disclose the organization, any organization names, acronyms, logos, or names of the personnel in Part B of your first stage application. Next slide. Thank you. In your application, of course, you must respect the minimum consortium composition requirements. Here you see on the right that you can add partners or affiliated entities. Any legal entity in Horizon Europe, regardless its place of establishment, including legal entities from non-associated third countries or international organization, can participate, whether they are eligible to receive funding or not. Of course, as it has been previously mentioned, for actions that are related to EU strategic assets, interests, autonomy, and security, the specific topic conditions may limit participation only to legal entities established in member states or in EU member states and very specific associated or non-associated third countries. Of course, this you will know it in advance because it will be mentioned in the topic conditions of the topic you are applying for. Now, when you fill in the partners, when you add partners, you have a warning in the system that shows to you how many participants you have inserted in the submission tool. In most of the cases for research innovation actions and innovation actions, we need at least 3 legal entities. Out of which one must be a member state. The other 2 can be a member states or associated countries. As affiliated entities do not sign the grant agreement, they do not count into the minimum eligibility criteria for consortium composition. So you will not see the number changing when you add an affiliated entity. Next slide. Thank you. In this slide, you see who is eligible for funding. Of course, member states, including their outermost regions, the overseas countries and territories, countries associated to Horizon Europe, low and middle income countries, and any other countries when announced in the call or exceptionally if their participation is essential. Affiliated entities are also eligible for funding if they are established in countries eligible for funding, EU bodies, and EU research organizations. Next slide. Of course, for actions related to EU strategic assets, interests, autonomy, and security, the specific topic conditions may limit participation, as it has been previously mentioned. Participation that is established only in countries in EU member states or EU member states and very few specific associate or non-associated third countries. The legal basis is laid on the Article 22.5 of the Horizon Europe regulations. These entities must not be directly or indirectly controlled by a non-eligible country or by a non-eligible country entity. And in this case, we ask for guarantees that you need to provide also as an annex in the submission tool. And this will be included also in the submission tool. When you download all the templates, you will see there an annex named Declaration on Ownership and Control that you will need to fill in and submit it along with your application. Next slide. So when you start filling in the online forms part A, you will see this content, which is the general information, the participants, the budget, ethics and security, and other questions. You are kindly requested to fill in properly your application. For instance, in the general information, do include the abstract of your proposal, and also any keywords in the participants do include all the researchers you are planning to involve and take into consideration also the gender balance of the researchers, because this is an element that we take into consideration when we have equally scoring proposals. In general, this will help us greatly in the evaluation of your proposal. Next slide. Here you see the additional declaration that you need to sign if you are applying for a topic under a lump sum scheme. And also for the lump sum grants, the budget table provides information only on the total requested grant amount per beneficiary. And the reason behind this is because you provide a breakdown in the detailed budget table per beneficiary, so it's not needed also to include it here. Next slide. All right. As you know, in Horizon Europe, all projects must comply with ethical principles and the applicable EU international and national law. So please go through these tables and indicate which elements concern your proposal by answering yes or no. Of course, if your answer is yes to these questions, you will need to make a reference to the page number of your proposal, and also a new window will open, and then you will need to provide more information and explain why your reply is yes. All reserve lists proposals and successful proposals undergo an ethics review to authorize funding and may be subject to specific ethics requirements. That these requirements become part of the grant agreement as ethics deliverables. Similarly, you need to fill in also the table on security, yes or no, and provide additional information if your reply is yes. And all proposals, also successful proposals and reserve list proposals, undergo a security review, pre-screening, and if needed, they also may go to security scrutiny. Next slide. All right. Now, in some topics that they are flagged as security-sensitive topics, we may require an additional annex to be attached. This is the information on security issues, or in case you wish to declare any security issues that you may have in your proposal. But in order to fill in, you can download this template actually from the submission tool. It will be included, of course, there, and you can read all the guidance that is in the template. In order to fill it in, we also advise to read the guidance, 2 more documents, the guidance on how to handle security-sensitive projects in Horizon Europe, and classification of information in Horizon Europe projects. And then you follow the instructions provided in this template, and you need to fill in the tables on sensitive information with security recommendation. If your project intends to use or produce classified information, then to fill in the information on security aspects letter and security classification guide, information on the security staff, project security officer, and a security advisory board, or any other project-specific security measures, for example, project security management or any other technical or operational measures you plan to put in place. Of course, the proposals will be screened, and this may lead also to security scrutiny process. Next slide. This is another annex that some topics may also request, the declaration on ownership and control. This must be completed by all participants if requested by the proposal submission tool. So you will find the template also among all the documents that you can download from the submission tool. Then all declarations must be assembled by the coordinator and then uploaded in a single file in the portal in the submission system. If your proposal is selected for funding, then participants may be contacted to provide more evidence. And this can become a very complex and lengthy process, which affects the consortium. So be transparent as early as possible in the application process. There are guidance documents, and actually there is a session tomorrow on this particular subject, declaration on ownership and control, and you are welcome to follow it for detailed information on how to fill in this annotated template on declaration on ownership and control, as well as to, how to provide the guarantees and measures put in place. Next slide. Thank you. So once you complete the Part A online forms, you need to click on the validation. So you need to run a validation exercise, and then you have this pop-up window where you see specific red missing information that they are in red. It means that the system will block you from submitting your proposal. And those that you see in orange, it means that it's a warning. We advise you to click on these buttons and then go back to the particular missing information, fill it in, save, and then validate again until you don't have any red blocking issues here. And then when you run the validation and everything is okay, you will be led to the main page, which is in the next slide. All right, which is the very final page that you see before you submit your proposal. Here, of course, you will not see all these values that you see here, but you will see only what your topic specifically requires. For instance, to upload the Part B template or any annexes that are mandatory. For example, if you're applying for a lump sum topic, it will be the detailed Excel table. And then you need to modify the template, of course, the Part B template that you will download in a Word document. Next slide, please. So here we advise you when you work on your Part B Word document, then before you upload it in the system, you need to convert it into a PDF. So clean your document before you convert it into a PDF, accept all track changes, delete any internal review notes or any comments, or check for any formatting issue you may have. And then when you convert it, then check that your PDF conversion software has not cut down any pages with landscape orientation, for example, to fit them into a portrait orientation format, or check if your captions and labels have not been lost from your diagrams. And if you're happy with the document, then upload it. Now, of course, there is a page limitation for the Part B template. The corporate approach in Horizon Europe is 45 pages for research, innovation actions and innovation actions, and 30 pages for the coordination and support actions. And of course, for those that they are applying under a lump sum scheme, this changes. It is 50 pages for research, innovation actions and innovation actions for lump sum, and 33 pages for the coordination and support actions for lump sums. The limit for the first stage of a two-stage application is 10 pages. Now, if you attempt to upload a document that exceeds the page limit, you will not be blocked by the system, but there will be a warning that will ask you to revise your document and upload a shorter version of it. If you do not do that, then after the call deadline, all the excess pages will be automatically made invisible to us, which means that they will not be taken into consideration for the valuation of your proposal. And last but not least, for lump sum grants, you need to upload the annex, the detailed budget table as an Excel. The format that currently is this table is different from Excel, but when you finalize all of your changes, save it as an Excel document and then upload it as such, and keep the original version just in case. Next slide. Next slide. All right, and this is the very last, let's say, page that you see, which is you run a validation of your proposal, and if there are any issues, then there are the messages that you see, the warnings that you need to go back and edit. If that's the case, go back to Part A, do the modifications, and then click Save, and then validate again until you don't see any errors, potential errors. You can preview your application before you submit. But if you're happy with your application, then you click on Submit in the next slide. What we advise here, we really recommend you to submit well in advance, before the call deadline, of course. And also you can resubmit several times. It means that you can always update your application. Every time, of course, you submit a new version, the last one is completely deleted and cannot be recovered by our side. Now, that was it from my side. If you have any questions during your application process, we really advise you to use the research inquiry service that was presented earlier by my colleagues, because this is your questions are directed to the responsible service, and we can always provide an answer to you.
Okay, perfect. So people, please join us on Slido. And we have already received a few questions. Anna, so the template for the lump sum budget found on the F&T portal is password protected. Our applicants and us are having trouble entering any data into the template. The template has the file name will the password be released, or is this an error? Is this something you can answer now, or do you have to look?
I can certainly say that for the detailed budget table that is in the submission portal, it's not protected by a password. So you can download and work directly in it. Now, probably this one is the one that you can find in the funding and standards portal, which is a general one and maybe is protected, but I cannot really provide an answer. Why is this the case for this one?
Yes. And then the next question for the financial assessment, what will be considered? The capacity to cover the part that is not funded by the EU, or the capacity to pay upfront for the costs until they're reimbursed?
I think this is a question for the colleagues from REA. Yeah.
Checking. I think they're gone already. Yeah. Okay, then let's move this to the side. The question will be saved, and we will use it for the funding and tender portal. You will receive your answer there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. And with that, we go to our next speaker, Konstantinos Amalochitis, who will talk about important aspects on quality of proposals.
Good afternoon, Matthias. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Konstantinos Amalochitis. I'm also the co-coordinator for HADEA, Destination 4, and today we're going to present you also a few things, very important aspects to consider when you prepare the proposal so you don't find any difficulties or issues as you proceed. Next slide, please. Now, first of all, about admissibility and eligibility of the proposals. It's important to consider for your proposal to be accepted, it needs to be complete, contain all the parts and annexes requested, must be readable, accessible, and printable. Also to include the plan for dissemination and the communication activities, which is important and requested, and be also cautious on the page limit that it's allowed for the part B of the proposal application that you will need to submit. Otherwise, if it exceeds the page limit, these excess pages will not be evaluated or visible. Another important aspect to consider for blind evaluation proposals, and this concerns the stage 1 of the two-stage call, only the stage 1, disclosure of applicant's identity must be hidden, so we should not have any organization names, acronyms, logos, something that could identify the participants. Now, for the eligibility activities are the one described in the call conditions, so it's important to have a look at them. The minimum number of partners needed, usually, like we said before, for research, innovation access, we request at least one legal entity, a member state, and 2 other independent legal entities, other member state or associated countries. And in addition, we also requested the gender equality plan. This is something that is requested since the 2022 calls and forward. But of course, we will not evaluate this, and we will not going to penalize if it's not there, but it will be requested once the proposal leads the grant preparation, and we will need it if your proposal is to be funded. Of course, important is other criteria may apply, so it's important always to look at the call and topic condition for which you apply to be more clear. Next slide, please. Now, for lump sum funding. Lump sum is something that we introduced since 2003, and it's important for you to get familiarized on the lump sums before you prepare and submit a proposal in order to grasp the overall view of what is needed. We have a dedicated lump sum page where you can enter and see the guidelines, see information and questions and answers, anything that could help you clarify questions you may have and guide you through how to fill in the information needed. Next slide. Now, one other important aspects for the lump sum is use the standard proposal template or specific template. What do we mean? It means that we usually have the standard proposal templates where we have also the templates for the lump sum and the budget tables, but from call to call and the topics in the calls, we may have specificities. And according to the specificities, the template could be modified, requesting additional aspects. So this template to be used for the specific topic should be extracted from the participant portal on the specific template and fill it in, not the general template, not to have any wrong information submitted later on. It's important to describe detailed the activities covered in its work packets, to define and justify the breakdown of the cost, make sure that your costs are actual and of course eligible. And you can see that through the model grant agreement from Horizon Europe, especially under Article 6, you have all the specific information to help you understand the eligibility of the costs. Now, the Excel template to prepare and provide detailed cost estimations is going to be found in the SEP, where you're going to extract it. And the cost estimations are used to generate automatically a breakdown of lump sum shares per work packets and per participants. Next slide. Now, the documents and annexes that will be necessary for all types of actions and for lump sums, definitely you will need the standard application form part A, which is structured data introduced online. So you fill it in online and you submit it in the system. Also, we have the application form, the part B. This is the technical description of the project, okay? And it's a text document that you need to download as a template and fill it in and submit as a PDF. This applies for all types of actions and the lump sums too. Now, for the annex related to the financial support to third parties, this may be needed only if it's foreseen in the topic conditions. So you need to make sure that this is the case or not. And of course, for lump sum topics only, you will need the budget table to extract and fill it in and submit it along with part A and part B of your proposal. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, the detailed budget table for the lump sums. Of course, once you open the Excel budget table, you will have the very different tabs, worksheet at the end, where you're going to see the different aspect that needs to be filled in. The very first and very important aspect is the informations. Basically, the instructions are provided and explain you what needs to be filled in for each of these tabs. Now, it's important to consider that applicants must submit this Excel file and consider all the instructions and provide proper justification. Of course, the total amount per beneficiary should correspond to Part A. You should not have different figures. And remember that the format of the Excel table is in XLSM when you use it, when you download it, because it uses macros. While you work on it, always save it as XLSM, okay? Don't change this. However, when you upload the Excel file, you need to upload this XLSX or XLS format. And for security reasons, you cannot upload the file as XLSM as you extract it from the system, okay? So this is important to consider, so you can always upload the budget table. And never forget, always keep copy of your work and the different formats, because you never know when you may need to go back to it and refer to it. Next slide, please. Now, Other important aspect to consider from what we have seen is that it's very important to include justified information in the comment section. So we have a comment section in the table where you can justify the significant deviations or the average personnel costs and the different efforts. So the more information you provide, the more clear you are towards the evaluator, and of course there are less question marks for your proposal. So it's important to provide in the comment sections clarifications and detailed information. It's very important also to be clear on the cost calculation methodology, okay, for us to understand, and for the evaluators, of course, the calculation of the effort needed. And before submitting, make sure, like we said also before, it's very important there is no discrepancy between part A and the budget table on the lump sums that you will submit. This information should be always consistent. Next slide. Now, some lessons learned, especially from the admissibility eligibility, is that proposals not respecting the minimum consortium composition requirements. Of course, it's something that we have seen in many times. Applicants may have not be careful, or they thought they were uploading the proper volume of pages. So it's really important always to check this. Very important also, missing parts in application for part B. Check always the PDF before uploading in case you upload a version that was not the right one that you needed. Any consistency number of participant part A and part B, also double check before you submit. Occurrence of annexes when topics do not foresee financial support to third partners. Always check the call text to verify that this is required or not from your side. And of course, any additional documents or any additional annexes that are not foreseen will be disregarded. Nobody will consider them. So don't bother. Use the templates and the information provided for you to fill in and provide what we need for the evaluation, especially. Next slide, please. Now, on the quality of the proposal, what is also important, follow the instructions provided in the application template of the Part B. Now, each proposal template, the Part B is split in two sections. The first section has a list of what needs to be filled in, and basically it provides all the different sections with detailed explanation what needs to be included for the different criteria related to excellence, impact, or implementation. So it's really important to follow the instructions. Like I said before, make sure that the right proposal template is used for the right topic. And that means that you extract the proposal template from your topic in order to have the correct one, and read through the instructions. Make sure that when you fill the second section, which is the fill-in section, has all the necessary information that we are asking. So the information is easy to follow as long as you follow the steps, okay? And it's your responsibility to demonstrate how your proposal addresses all these award criteria, excellence, impact, and implementation. And the evaluation of a proposal is based on the content you provide in the application form, and needs to be as clear as possible. We're not going to consider any assumptions and any additional information. Now, the proposed work corresponds to the description of the work program. Always remember that the range of score goes from 0 to 5 for each criterion, okay? And of course, the maximum criteria that a proposal can get is the 15, of course, if we have 3 criteria. And scores must pass. Always remember the individual threshold for each criterion, which is most of the time is 3. and the overall threshold, which is 10. Of course, in addition to that, you always need to consider we have a budget, dedicated budget for each topic. So even if your proposal is above threshold, if your proposal is not scored high enough to be considered within the available budget, at the end of the day, even though above threshold will not get funded. So, but of course could be in the reserve list. So it's all important to consider all of this. Next slide, please. Now, for the evaluation of work criteria, as I was saying before, we have 3 criteria, which are very important, all of them. The excellence, the impact, and quality of the implementation. Only for the 2-stage course, stage 1, only for the stage 1 of the 2-stage call, we only have 2 criteria. Actually, it's 1.5. We evaluate the excellence criteria and part of the impact. And of course, we request a smaller proposal to be submitted of 10 pages only. Now, the evaluation criteria are adapted to each type of action, okay, based on the work program. Each criteria includes the aspects to be considered and taken into account. And of course, always follow the proposal template instructions, which explains what is requested for you to provide the detailed analysis of your proposals. You can see also from the general annexes of the work program, the section D, award criteria, where it provides more information there too. And it's important also to know that for the innovation action, the criteria of impact has the highest weight to determine the ranking. So if proposals submitted at the innovation actions have the same score and we need to rank them, one of the criteria to be considered for the ranking will be the impact, and the highest score impact proposal will go above in relation to the other proposal with the same total score. Next slide, please. Now here you can see how the proposal template looks, and this is the beginning of the proposal template where you have the sections that needs to be filled with the instructions. So this is basically the excellence, and then under the excellence 1 by 1 objectives, 1.2 methodology, and so on. And you can see that each proposal template will have all the details and requests that you need to fill in the second part of the part B proposal template. So definitely you have all the information and instructions you need to follow up. And as long as you provide all the information that is requested there, you should not have anything missing. If in your case you may consider that something may not be applicable for you, and you're not going to be filling in some information related to that, it's good that you justify yourself so it's clear to the evaluators and see if it's the case in relation, of course, to the topic in the work program. Next slide, please. Now, for the criteria, let's have a look more or less of what it's needed. So for the excellence criteria, for the first of the 2 sub-criterion under excellence, we first of all request to assess the project objectives. Of course, we want to see that they are clear and pertinent to the topic, they are measurable, verifiable, realistic, achievable, and the work is ambitious, it goes beyond the state of the art. And does the proposal include groundbreaking research, innovation concepts, services, products, and so on? So these are the main aspects that you need to consider. And of course, like I said, in the template, you have more enhanced information for you in order to provide the details. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, this is the second sub-criteria from excellence. And here what we ask is assess the scientific methodology. Is the scientific methodology clear and sound? Is it clear how expertise and methods from different disciplines will be brought together, integrating pursuit to the objectives? So also about the gender dimension in research and innovation has been considered. Open science practices, have they been implemented of the proposed methodology, and so on. I'm not going to go in all of them, but we just want to give you the main aspects that needs to be considered for each of the criteria, sub-criteria. And of course, like I said, you have more details in the template. Next slide. For the impact criteria, again, we will have two sub-criteria. The first requests to assess the proposed pathways towards the impact. And here we are looking always the contribution of the project towards the expected outcome and the wider and longer term of the impact, any potential variance and expected outcome the impact may identify, the scale of significance of the project contributions to the expected outcomes and impacts. These are from the pathways towards impact, the main aspects. Next slide. And the second sub-criteria from impact is to assess the measures to maximize impact. And here requesting more information on the dissemination, exploitation, communication plan. Is the proposed dissemination, exploitation, communication measurable for the project of good quality? Also, are the target groups of these measures identified? Is the strategy of the management or IP properly outlined and suitable to support the exploitation of the results? So these are the main aspects to be considered in the second sub-criteria of impact. Next slide. Now, for the third criterion, we're talking about the quality of the implementation. And again, here we have two sub-criteria. The first one refers to the proposed work plan and effort and resources. So we want to see that the work plan is of good quality and effective. It does include quantified information so the progress can be monitored. It follows a logical structure, the timing, the work package order, and how the flow throughout the project is to be funded. The resources allocated to the project are in line with the objectives and the deliverable, and of course, to make sure that there are critical risks and of course, risk mitigation measure in case of a problem that may arise. Next slide, please. And the second sub-criteria under the evaluation of the quality and implementation, here we assess the quality of participants and the consortium as a whole. And here we want to see that the consortium matches the project objectives. The consortium includes expertise in order to make sure that they do the work that they propose. Of course, science practice and gender aspects of research innovation as appropriate. And in case there is the consortium, in order to include expertise in social science and humanities, if it's there, the partners have access to critical infrastructure needed for the project activities, or are the participants complementing each other to cover the different aspects related to the project? And of course, any contribution to the project, does any of the partners have a valid role, adequate resources to the project to fulfill that role, and so on. So all these aspects are what we're looking for the second sub-criteria of the implementation. Next slide, please. Now, one other important thing to consider, we always promote open research. And Open Research Europe is a platform where enables researchers to publish any research they wish to share, any knowledge or ideas with the other researchers. And this is something very important in order to help our research in general, researchers and the society to advance. So this is something we promote and support it. And it's open science policy from the EU and beneficial capacity to comply and leads by example in organizing open science. So in this platform, it's important that you also provide information on your research and your ideas, which may help you if you get contacted by other researchers related to what you're doing, and also for you to give ideas to the others to enhance even further potential future ideas. Next slide. And let's see some important do's and don'ts. Okay, to sum up a bit of what's important before you submit your proposal. So always read carefully the work program, the annexes, the general annexes, and frequently ask questions to know what the proposal or the call and the topic is about before you proceed. Regularly check the topic updates in portal, because we at some point we may provide you any additional information for you. Pay attention to the call topic conditions, okay? Not just the general call conditions, but also the topic conditions, because there may be specificities for you to consider. Follow the templates provided in the submission system from the specific topic, not just the general, because like I said before, it may be different, the template in relation to the general one. Read the evaluation criteria through the Horizon Europe General Annexes, and also you can have access to them through the proposal template in order to analyze your proposal accordingly, and you know based on what criteria your proposal will be evaluated. And submit and retract your proposal for any update as many times as you wish. However, also pay attention that you will not be able to do anything, any new submission or upload a new version after the call closure deadline. Okay. Now, what's important, don't include costs not eligible for funding. So always double check that your costs are eligible before you request something that will be not considered. Don't propose activities which are not focusing on civil applications. So, of course, any military actions or things like that that are not fall under civil focus on civil applications will not be considered. Okay. Don't forget to mark any resubmissions when you submitted the resubmitted proposal. Do not add information where it does not belong. Sometimes by mistake or from copy paste, very often we see information or analysis provided in different sections than the one that they belong, instead of the impact to excellence and so on. So always double check your final version. Don't wait until the last minute to submit. Very, very important. Many times we have everything ready. We consider, okay, we will keep it open and submit just the last minute in case something comes up. Well, guess what? When everybody do this, the system gets blocked, and some of your proposals may not have a chance to be submitted to time, and this will be a problem. You won't be in there in the call closure deadline, and your proposal will not be considered. So submit in time, but not the last minute, because many may do the same thing and you won't be able to get your proposal through. And of course, very importantly, for blind evaluation, do not disclose applicant's identity. Let me say something here. In the proposal template for the blind evaluations, we have in the part B instructions and guidelines, where it explains what can and what cannot be considered for the information you want to provide, so you won't be considered inadmissible or ineligible. Okay, next slide. So this is from my side. I hope the information was quite straightforward for all of you, and it's important.
Thank you, Konstantinos. Let's see if we have we have two. Will it be a 3-page extension for exploitation business case and destination 1 topics?
Yes, usually you will see when we have this requirement in the specific topic. We also have information related to this. And in case it may not be there, we will inform you in the portal if the reference that the additional 3 pages is not there. We will inform you in the portal and we will provide this possibility.
Thank you. And then some indication for this exploitation business, financial projections are expected?
Well, I'm not sure if I can answer this. Some indication for the exploitation business. We don't have something specifically. Each topic has different aspects to be considered, or its theme, or depending the proposal they submit, they need to consider different aspects, I would say. I don't think we can give some specific answer to this.
Okay.
Maybe if the applicant may contact the policy or us, and we can see through the policy officer if we have more details on the request to see if we can answer more specifically something.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your presentation and answering the questions. We have one more colleague to go. Is it Dina Nemeth, who will talk on the national contact points. Yeah, Dina, we are unfortunately running slightly after time, as you will have noticed. If you could make it as smooth and fast as possible. Thank you very much.
Yes, I will do. Thank you very much. So I'm Adina Nemeth. I am representing national contact points. I'm active in the Idealist network, but today I'm speaking on behalf of a lot more contact points. I'll explain a little bit later. So next slide, please. Who are national contact points? Basically, they are national support structures. We are there in every country, and our job is to link national partners with European Commission, and we are dedicated to make your Horizon Europe journey as easy and as rewarding as possible. Now, as the last presenter of the day, I guess my challenge is to offer you services that will really ease your Horizon Europe participation and add value to it. So I hope I can convince you that that is exactly what we can offer as a national contact point. So next slide, please. To complement previous, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. To complement previous speakers on all the steps you need to take to participate, let me introduce you of how we can support you along the way. So our activities basically fall into 3 different categories: information services, advice and training, as well as signposting. Next slide, please. On the first category, information services, we offer documentation on call conditions, as well as on funding opportunities, information days, promotional activities, but also information beyond funding opportunities on cross-cutting issues. Some of them that have been around for quite a while, like gender issues or social sciences and humanities, but also new ones, for example, on AI robustness in proposals or security issues. Next slide, please. In terms of advice and training, we help you with searching for partners and building consortia suitable to address the calls. We help you understand the differences between different instruments, such as innovation actions and research and innovation actions. And we offer training courses that give you better understanding of various aspects. Next slide, please. We also act as signposting actors, and we encourage cooperation with different services. For example, business support services such as the Enterprise Europe networks or digital innovation hubs, issues on IPR or links with thematic areas covered by Horizon Europe partnerships. For this cluster, for example, with the Made in Europe partnership, with Space partnership, or the Photonics partnership. And finally, we offer complementary information on programs that go beyond of Horizon Europe Cluster 4, or even different programs, such as in the case of the Digital Europe program. So basically, next slide, please. We are a huge network. There's a national contact point in every country in the member states and associated countries, and even beyond Europe, all across the world. Next slide, please. First of all, we offer services at the national level. And at the national level, some of the kind of questions that we can answer include guiding you through calls. There are so many calls, especially in this cluster. And your NCP can basically guide you to the right opportunities to select. Now we can guide you on how to build a consortium. This is something you can partly read out of call text, but also we have immense experience over the years where we can support you on how to address various aspects of the call. We can also help you align your project to EU strategic objectives or policy aspects. And finally, as you prepare to finish your proposal, we can give you feedback on your proposal throughout the project preparation lifecycle. Next slide, please. So national services are one form of support, but you may think that most Horizon Europe projects are not implemented by partners from one country. They are implemented by multinational consortiums. So it's quite logical that some of the services we offer are offered in collaboration in the form of multinational networks. For this, we have national contact point networks in the 3 big areas of the cluster. Next slide, please. So as you know, Cluster 4 is probably one of the most complex clusters in Horizon Europe. The topics cover such a wide range of areas, from fighting fake news to actually virtual and augmented reality, or from handling waste on Earth to gathering debris from space, or artificial organs printed with bioinks, to flexible and printed electronics. So lots and lots of areas, and all of them gathered in Cluster 4. So basically, we are here to support you with dedicated thematic networks. Idealist in the area of digital technologies, NCP for industry in the industrial topics, destination 1 and 2, and Cosmos for the space topics. Next, I'll have a few slides introducing these networks in particular. I'll start with NCP for industry. Next slide, please. The aims of the NCP for industry is to basically offer guidance on the industry-oriented topics of the work program, work with the research and innovation communities, and stimulate knowledge transfer and cross-fertilization among the different actors and stakeholders in this area. Next slide, please. NCP for industry has multiple target groups. Some of them are the national contact points themselves to exchange information among each other and support each other, but they also include various relevant stakeholder groups such as partnerships, the different research and innovation communities. They have a specific focus on helping newcomers and attracting potential new actors, and they work with the Commission representatives in this area. Next, please. So they have a bunch of dedicated services. I'll highlight those that are specifically relevant in the context of offering multinational support. Some of these include proposal checks, proposal idea checks, but also partner search through dedicated brokerage events, and industry-specific information and documentation to support the application process. Next, please. Some of the most relevant upcoming activities include the Cluster 4 Industry Brokerage event, which will be on October 19th, organized by the NCP for Industry Network, but they are also supporting 2 additional industry-oriented brokerage events by offering Project Idea Check, for example. These are the brokerage event on CATS or the one on the European Green Deal. They are also holding information webinars, proposal check for project ideas, and as we progress on the timeline of the current call, they will offer full proposal checks as well. And you can find the contact details on the slide. Next, please. The next network is Cosmos, which is the network of national contact points for space. Next, please. So basically, the network includes 15 partners, but it has a very long history, and the aim is to offer services and supports for NCPs and applicants alike in the space area. Next, please. And raise awareness of this relatively smaller part of the cluster reduce the entry barriers to attract new players and applicants, and increase the visibility of this thematic area within the cluster and beyond. Next, please. They offer training activities for NCPs, but they also offer a variety of services that target applicants, such as information events, brokerage events, pitch sessions for project ideas, and support throughout the proposal preparation process. Next, please. For space, the brokerage event is coming up next week also on the 18th of October. And it's an online brokerage event, and the platform will remain open until the end of the call deadlines. Next, please. Here are the contact details for the space network, and I will now go to the next slide for the digital network idea list. So who are we? We are basically partners present in many countries in Europe and beyond. We have a very long history, starting activities in a number of framework programs before in 1996. Next, please. So we bring a tremendous wealth of experience, both historically as well as across the network. And we offer a bunch of really nice services. Next, please. I will highlight only a few, the ones that are probably a little bit different from the other networks. For example, we offer a topic tree. This is a tool that shows the evolution of call topics. So it's easier to understand where topics come from and where they are headed when you're writing an application. We also offer a toolbox for proposals with various activities that will help the application process. And we offer support throughout the project life cycles in preparation and full proposal checks. Next, please. So this is a picture of our topic tree. It shows the links between the various topics. As new work programs or related programs such as the Digital Europe program are published, we link the topics and show you how the different topics are interrelated. This helps especially in the digital part of the work program because some topics require cooperation with various aspects financing the Digital Europe program, such as testing and experimentation facilities or data spaces. Next, please. We also offer brokerage events. Our ideal goal is to offer them live, and in fact, we have one coming up in the next months. But currently, we are offering it also online like the other networks. Next slide, please. We are offering the brokerage event on the 16th and 17th of October, and you can basically use the virtual Agora to meet other partners, and it will be open also for long-term networking up until the call deadline. Next, please. We offer project idea checks. This will be by appointment also on the 16th and 17th of October, but we have multiple upcoming events like the Big Data Value Forum, the ADRA Forum, or the NGI Forum and the CHIPS JU launch event, where we will be available with experienced national contact points to offer you ideas, feedback on your project ideas. Next, please. In addition to the project idea checks, closer to the deadline, we will offer online and on-site full proposal checks with experienced evaluators giving you feedback on your fully developed proposals. And next, please. So here is where you can find us on our website as well as social media channels. And next, please. Basically, the networks are here and the NCPs are here to support you together in collaboration. And next, please. I will finish my presentation highlighting our next collaborative activity, the 3 brokerage events of Cluster 4. We welcome you to register and find your partners for your next, hopefully successful proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dina. You made up for the delay. It was very comprehensive. Thank you very much. Let's see if we have some questions. please join us on Slido again. Okay, no question for now. We keep Slido open, but then allow me to already wrap up the session. So thank you very much to our 6 speakers that gave a very broad overview about cross-cutting topics that are relevant for everyone. In case there is still a Slido question, we can still come back. So Edina, please stay just in case. Otherwise, I would like to thank also the audience for being patient with us through some technical issues we had today, and we hope that you learned a lot and found all the presentations informative. Tomorrow morning, we will start at 9:30 with a welcome address by Sipo Kleiner, director from DG Connect. And then at 9:40, as you can see, we have our first session starting on Destination 3, World Leading Data and Computing Technologies. So please come back tomorrow morning at 9:30 if you're interested in Horizon Europe Cluster 4 Digital specifically. We still do not have a question, so then let's assume that Edina, you were so great. All questions were answered during your presentation. So with that, we conclude day 1 of the Info Day, and I wish you all a very nice evening. Thank you and goodbye.